I'm Martin Senterfitt. I started in the Florida Keys July 1, 2016. And in emergency management, we recognize that the Florida Keys is probably one of the greatest challenges in emergency management regarding the risk that we face with hurricanes. In emergency management, we have preparedness plans, a comprehensive emergency management plan to be exact. This plan lays out the timelines, the actions that we take, and the responsibilities of each of the agencies, emergency management, the mayor, the county administrator, the sheriff. This document is what guides us in our actions when a hurricane approaches. It's our playbook, if you would. Emergency management in the United States is broken into four major categories: mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. Mitigation are those actions that we can take to lessen the impact of a storm. For the Florida Keys, it means building up. It means having storm shutters. Preparedness is developing those plans that allow us to know the actions that we need to take in time of crisis. It's ensuring that we have a plan for evacuations, for special needs sheltering. Response is what most people think of when they think of a disaster. That's when the storm actually hits. The firefighters, the police officers, the military all come in, and that's when we do the search and rescue. That's when we come in and we do the damage assessments post-storm. And then finally, the biggest of all is recovery. Recovery normally starts when the response ends, and even today, a year after Hurricane Irma, we're still in the recovery mode. You know, a question that often asked is, when does recovery end? Really, recovery doesn't end until we've rebuilt, and we've recovered all the funds we've spent, which sometimes can be 5 to 10 years after the storm. Recovery is a very slow process, and you know, some would challenge that perhaps you never fully recover after a major disaster. But it's a process that we go through, and at the same time we learn, which then starts the process over again. Mitigation, preparedness, response. We're always trying to be better so that the next storm we have taken the lessons learned and we've capitalized on those. For Hurricane Irma, there were quite a few lessons learned. Number one, communication. We lost our infrastructure. We lost the technology that allows us to communicate as we're quite accustomed to in 2017. And we've learned that we have to strengthen the infrastructure, the fiber optic lines, the satellite capability. More importantly, we learned that we have to do a better job communicating with our citizens. Being that most citizens evacuate, how do we communicate to those outside to let them know what's happening in the Florida Keys? And at the same time, for those few that chose to stay behind, how do we communicate with them after the storm? Recognizing that cell phone service is out, the telephones are down, they have no access to perhaps TV. So these are the issues we've learned, is that we have to communicate better. A second area that we know we have to focus on is how we manage volunteers and donations. After Irma, we had thousands of people coming in wanting to help, truckloads of material, and we had to come up with a solution on how to incorporate these into the community to get the most effective use out of them and still be able to keep control of what's happening around us. Another area that we have focused on is how we deal with our special needs patients. Patients with medical conditions need to be moved to safe areas during a storm, and what we found is in Florida, when you're facing a major storm that impacts 49 counties, it became difficult to place all of these as every nursing home, every hospital was filling up. And so special needs was another area that we recognized that we have to do better. And finally, one that's dear to most people's heart is the concept of re-entry. After a storm, or during a storm, we evacuate people out of the Keys, and then we have the proverbial roadblocks keeping people from coming back in. How do we get people back in earlier, sooner, so that they can come in and they can take care of their homes? We recognize post-storm that not only does the storm do damage, but after the storm, it's the mold and mildew that creates such incredible damage to our homes. And it's only when we can get the citizens back in that we can truly start recovering from the storm. So those are just some examples of lessons learned in the 2017 hurricane season that we're now taking forward to try to make sure we capitalize on that knowledge that we now have. The staff here at Monroe County Emergency Management is dedicated to this community, to helping this community prepare for, respond to, and recover from disasters. And to our citizens who've gone through Hurricane Irma, Our message to you is that we have taken the lessons to heart. We strive to be better. We're reaching out. We're including the community in disaster response. And we ask the community to be part of the solution. Take part in the community emergency response team training that's being offered. Become part of the solution. Be one of those responders that can help us recover in time of disaster here in the Florida Keys. And once again, I'm Marty Senterfitt, Director of Emergency Management for Monroe County. We appreciate all this community has done. It's truly because of the community that we were able to recover from Hurricane Irma, and we look forward to working with you in the future.